discuss. I'm with. Did I fuck up?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Excellent. I'm with
Kevin.
And RJ.
And today we're going to discuss. Well, actually, I'm going to start off, if you guys don't mind, with a brief little. I don't want to say monologue, but I'm going to stand on my soapbox for a couple seconds if that's cool with you guys.
Have at it.
I am tired of people's political fucking purity at this goddamn point. We see people parading around these labels, Republican and Democrat, as if they're banning hardcore for death and life, Bloods and Crips type shit. Literally fighting each other in the fucking street. It's so fucking disgusting to see that my fellow Americans can't come together and talk to each other with respect. It's truly saddening. It's really depressing.
Is that?
And well, sorry.
No, I wanted to make sure.
I don't want to interrupt, but
I didn't know if you were pausing for effect. Or...
Not necessarily. I wanted to go on and say that, we see these political figures, and they constantly switch lanes. They're I don't remember the senator or congressman's name, but I mean, there's a few of them that have just kind of developed a joke. Oh, well, it's an even year, so he's a Republican now. Or it's an odd year, they're a Democrat now. And parties are supposed to be so ideologically different. How can you do that? You are putting so much loyalty into a party system that doesn't give a fuck about you. It's about their career. Politicians, that's their career for most of them. Car salesmen, they tell people shit to make them buy fucking cars. These fuckers tell you shit to buy them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You're buying their bullshit. That's what they sell. Their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And to literally forget that we're all Americans and just attack each other for ideas. The whole reason we founded this country, allegedly, was we wanted to separate the penalty for having ideas that go against the norm. And we punish people for having unpopular ideas. And it's crazy.
It is, but I mean, I think it's been a direct result of our social engineering.
Oh, definitely.
Won't be the last time that I'll say it. I think you have inadvertently been programmed to think that way. And that's part of growing up and having favorite baseball teams and rock bands and people getting in fights, Red Sox.
Oh my God. The Black Album sucks.
Yeah. You get all kinds of stuff, that you get. Mainly, I see it really with the sports teams. I think that's why.
Oh yeah.
We were in the Olympics right now. I think that's why the Olympics sometimes are a little dangerous because it all turns into
political grandstanding.
Yeah, it's just a big dick measuring contest out there, and it's one of those. It's really, really good for national unity. Everybody's happy to be an American when we were leading the gold medal count. Stuff like that.
I'll tell you this, man. I am loving the success of Michael Phelps, the world's most successful stoner. You gotta love that.
I mean, I guess I'm happy for him, I suppose. I'm not a big fan of the Olympics anymore. I've grown out of it I do still like sports, don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to care less. It's more just something it's cool to waste some time with. I like playing fantasy football because that's like playing a game to me.
That's more interactive.
Yeah, strategy, interactive. But as far as I'm not getting all up in arms. I haven't watched. I think it's.
Don't get me wrong. I haven't watched a minute of this bullshit.
2 or 3 Olympics in a row, without watching the opening ceremony or really any of the games. It's something I'll keep my eye on. It's interesting, and it's at a great time. It's happening at a great time right now. to be a really big distraction from other things that are going on. There's a lot of terrible stuff going on with Rio, but that's neither here nor there.
Body parts washing up.
I got a little off topic there.
Wait, what? Oh, so yeah, political purity.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, and it's just fucking crazy. You know, you have the DNC coming out that they were suppressing vote manipulation or whatever. How can you even vote for a party that just throws your vote in the fucking garbage?
Well, it's I don't understand how there is a Hillary supporter alive. I don't get it.
Because there's a Donald Trump.
But I still
Just all the people that would have testified against them in court have been murdered.
I will give you a pass on if you're saying that you're voting for Hillary because of how scared you are for Trump. But as far as like a devout Clinton supporter,
Right.
like I don't want to meet that person.
No.
Like, oh my God. You're like talking to a brick wall.
Well,
Just
at
a
that
really
point,
chipper and ignorant and brick wall.
I'm pretty sure they'd have diabetes from drinking the Kool-Aid at that point.
No, it's chai.
Oh,
They drink.
have you tried chai?
Man, have you had a seizure before on camera? That blew my mind.
Oh my God.
So what is going to happen when Hillary dies? They're not going to give Bernie the ticket. Like, let's say she has another bad stroke. Like, let's just say, for instance, like, what would happen if these videos are coming out about her health? I love that hard hitting, honest journalism right there. Thinking like, what would happen? Because that she's had a couple moments where it's like your health looks concerning to me. And based on your idea,
and you don't even like her.
I don't even like her. I don't necessarily want to ever see anyone die again. I mean, that's a stroke. A stroke. That's a tough one.
Stroke me.
But
Sorry.
it is so easy to keep a conversation when you're singing Billy Squier in my face. So in regards to this, though, as much as I do agree with you on this political purity, we're seeing a moment in time where it's not really holding true on the Republican side whatsoever. And that's the only thing. So I could definitely, you can't argue on the Democratic side because you even have Bernie with the makeup covering his bruises going up there and saying, yeah, Hillary's the best.
And then getting rushed out of there.
Let's vote for her and then just peacing out.
And then switching his ticket to Libertarian, or what was it? So he's going back to Socialist, right? Socialist Party?
Yeah, he went back to an independent party, yes.
Yeah.
But he's faded into obscurity at this point, so I don't see. It doesn't seem like he has the same vigor for running.
No.
You know, it's what. So you lost a Democratic ticket, and then you endorse Hillary. So what does that mean? Are you actually planning on running third party? I don't understand the process there, where there are people saying that in order to be eligible to run, he had to concede and endorse Hillary, and that feels backwards.
Hardcore.
But so I will admit that I see this political purity on the Democratic side, but we now have. So there's an article out. RJ can vouch for this. You may have seen it. We posted it on our Twitter account about a Republican PAC putting money and support behind Johnson and Weld. So now that's essentially what the Republican Party is split three ways. And so on that end, you would have to say, because in a normal sense,
Aren't Johnson and Weld on the same ticket?
Johnson, yeah, but there's Evan McMullin. Ooh, okay, so
what's this?
So for those faithful followers of 60 Grit Radio, they already know who Evan McMullin is. We talked about him earlier this week. Evan McMullin is the former CIA agent who announced his candidacy as a Republican nominee on the same day of big Republican Party members wrote a letter denouncing Donald Trump.
See, I heard about that letter because that was an attempt to get funding diverted away from Donald Trump campaign to other Republican campaigns, right?
Yeah, and this random guy, Evan McMullin, who let's say about 10 days to a week ago had fewer Twitter followers than we did, is now a mentionable. You gotta remember, people run for president all the time. There's that something supreme guy that I remember hearing about on talking about random people just running for president, and so there's hundreds of people every 4 years that run for president. We don't hear about those.
Right.
So why are we hearing about this Evan McMullen guy? Why is he getting FaceTime? Why is he getting on the media?
House Republibloods are gonna start pumping fucking money to him.
Yeah, and so it's one of those, like, Trump is a key example. When you were speaking of people that with the doublespeak, I watched a 6-minute video in preparation for this that was Donald saying of every issue. Like, it might be years and years apart, but you would have one quote, him saying he's strongly one way, doesn't know a guy, and then the clip would go to 5 or 6 years before where he's talking about how he knows this guy, how he's a bad person, this and that. And then later when the allegations come up that he's done business with him, he's like, no, I don't even know who this guy is. But it's like, you forget he's got the same issue that Hillary has. When you're in front of the camera constantly, it's hard for your true self to not show at some point.
Right.
And it's hard for you to keep your bullshit straight because you constantly are just telling people what they want to hear. And eventually you're going to get asked and you're going to give your bullshit answer and you're going to contradict yourself. So he has been all over. So maybe it's kind of hard to, he's the thing that throws this whole political purity thing, sort of a wrench into it a little bit at the moment. For as long as we can remember, it's been Republican versus Democrat, and just one contender really versus one contender, and then
that's been the big conspiracy about Donald Trump. Is people think that he was essentially a chip in play by the Clinton party to split the Republican Party.
Yeah, and I could see
to dismantle the vote, so it's just a scattered vote.
I can see where that theory comes from because they have previously been close. Their daughters are close. They attended it.
I wonder how close they are.
Their daughters had, I see what you're saying. Yeah, some daydreaming time.
Sorry.
I know they met for lunch after the DNC. So
they did too.
Bow.
Yeah.
A little soup and salad.
Little takeout sushi.
A little banana pudding for dessert. So I could see where that comes from. I don't know one way or the other.
Well,
I think this could all be a publicity stunt as well for Donald. Why not?
That too. And
Why
that's
not?
look at some of the largest growth that Donald Trump had in New York City. New York was while Bill and Hillary, I almost said Hillary, were fucking power figures there.
Yeah, so
he's breaded their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get shit done in that city unless you pay to the king and queen.
Yeah, so he's the wild card with all this, but because I see a lot of what I see right now, and I think it's turned. I think political purity has evolved in a sense where I think if we were having this conversation 8 years ago, maybe definitely any time beyond that, but during Romney, then absolutely I would say, okay, yeah, political purity was definitely still at its all-time high maybe not at its all-time high, but in its the normal concept that you would think of it, where it's just the blue guys over here, the red guys over here, everybody kind of stand their ground. What I see it as now is it's all been about the figurehead. And it's not red versus blue anymore. It's like my guy versus your guy. And I think that's why we've been seeing all this flip-flopping, because we've gotten sadly to the point where the public is just so dumb. They're just going with whatever they like to hear. And that's why it's not even a party thing anymore. It's just, that's how you can have people in one day be devout Bernie Sanders supporters, a week of him dropping out and Gary Johnson showing up, they're suddenly devout Gary Johnson supporters because they aren't hearing any solutions from either of these candidates. Yes, they recognize the same problems. That makes sense. Okay.
Right.
But their solutions are complete 180s from each other. At least they should be. So any supporter, it should be a little difficult for you to just go directly over to Gary Johnson unless either A, you're not paying that much attention, or B, you're just taking all the lip service for what it's worth, or C, you despise Hillary and Donald as an option that much where you're willing to throw your support behind really anybody who isn't them and give that person a shot. And so whereas that third one I can be a little bit more okay with as someone who wouldn't want to throw a vote towards Hillary or Donald at this point.
Right.
But those first two, to me, that's sort of what's wrong. Like, that's how we got into this position. We have people that only pay attention once every 4 years. They throw themselves behind one candidate whom they haven't been paying any attention to ever up until this point. So cases that are done on the news that essentially tell you who to vote for. And, I don't remember the process being very coming up to, it seems like the list always starts like around 16 or 20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where are we at in that process where we're actually helping pick the people that represent us? Most people can't even name their own state representatives, but still, just here's a group of individuals that are okay for you to select. That is a big part of the issue, but that's where I would see it with
this. That's a huge part of the issue too.
So
A lot of the forefounders were against political parties because of the fact of the concentration of power. Once you have this party, if you make it into the party and become, this is a fucking popularity contest, the shit point in our history. And who has the most fucking money, or who wets whose fucking beak. It's fucking disgusting.
I mean, but I will say it's not like it hasn't. It's been that for a while.
Oh yeah.
It's just now it's just getting a little more transparent. I think that's why.
I play devil's advocate here a little bit. Like, I understand like the disdain toward like a political purist. I'm trying to think of how to word it, but essentially, like, no matter what, there's going to be. How do you define a political party? No matter what, there's going to be a group of core supporters like proposing this candidate to the people. I understand that like what the parties are now is a lot more. What's the word where like they're better at it, more advanced at it. I can't think of the word right off the top of my head right now, but. Control, like they have it on lock. They figured this out on how to get that candidate out to the people to get that percentage of vote. But no matter what, like that candidate's going to need a group of core supporters to get him out there. So I don't know how you could ever like, in one form or another, even if it is just the media and newspapers, they're always going to have that group of core support in their pocket. So they're always going to be the New York Times candidate, or you know what I mean? Like it might not be the Democrat candidate, but if I was something, because that's something that has to get your message out there, I would think. So how can you do it without that? Even with like the internet and like online polling and stuff like that, how do you get somebody's name out to 300 million people without some type of a party system? Do you guys have any like?
I'm not saying necessarily dismantle the party system. We need as a people to stand up together and say, no, we're not going to take this shit, and establish more parties, honestly.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So it needs to be a more open platform.
Exactly, dude. When you're looking at two people, if you were to poll every person in this country, and let's throw away the concept of nationality for the sake of this argument right fucking here. Whether or not you have the right to vote, whatever. If you were to pull the ideas of everybody in this country, can you imagine how many different responses there would be? And we're supposed to, as a nation that, is built to be individuals. We seem to forget that the Constitution and rights is what grants individuals freedoms. And to insult us with just having 2 main party candidates, joke. Those 2 people don't represent everybody, but they're the only 2 candidates that are worth a shot, that are worth a damn. And it's exactly, that's getting jumped in. That's your getting jumped in point. Well, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
And it was supposed to be a thing, as you're raised, you're taught that anyone could be president. That's the beautiful thing of the country. But
Mhm.
yet, you just, family trees, you can look out and see that a lot of people have been related. But
Oh,
if
yeah.
you just look at, say, the last years, where you have 12 years of a Bush within like a 20-year period, and then now you're potentially looking at to where you could have 16 years of Clintons.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing we know, that chances are if she wins this first one, she's probably going to win the second one. Or, maybe they're
change their rules of term limits.
And back to exactly change the rules of
How
term
much
limits.
that shit come up?
That's sort of what I was going for, because that's gotten brought up. We've discussed that many times. It's something we really want to bring. This gets mentioned. Because I don't know whether or not I no longer know where I stand on term limits. I used to be a big enforcer of there need to be more term limits on everything. Now I think it just needs to. I think the pay structure needs to be changed.
That too.
I think that there just needs to be less options for. That's a completely different conversation. That's a really long conversation.
Yeah, and that's like look at the Supreme Court justices. Appointed. How the fuck does that give voice to the people? And their life appointments.
Well, you take that into account when you're like voting, because who they're going to kind of go for. I mean, they all are asked before you vote for them. Hey, who are you thinking for your Supreme Court justice picks?
You do, but they could totally go left field.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's the thing.
So
Why?
Electoral College.
And that's still my point. Like, we're supposed to pick this crony who rubs elbows with the right fucking people. Well, hey, if you throw your support my way with your boys, justice in.
Yeah.
That's how this shit works. Blood oils these wheels, mon frere.
So what do you call it? Would you say it's safe to call it crony capitalism?
Oh, a crony oligarchy.
Is it safe to say that crony capitalism is alive and well?
You'd have to use the term capitalism so loosely in order for that to work. Like the oligarchies,
Well,
the way he's going.
well, you guys didn't see what I was doing. Now your boy Gary has taken Bernie's little soundbite, crony capitalism is alive and well, and he's turned it into his soundbite, and it made me laugh on Team Gare Bear. And so when you referred to these corrupt politicians as cronies, I was like, I wonder where that came from.
Okay.
Boom, your subconscious
Actually, not
absorbed
not from Gary.
Even if it had come from Gary, let's be honest, you wouldn't give him the credit.
Probably not.
I'm just for the audience needs to know that. Even if I was right now, there's no way Lou would concede it.
I turned into Sean Baker.
No, but I might not concede it either. I understand.
Fair enough.
We're all humans. We all have our pride. I just like to give the audience some background so they can decide.
I don't conscientiously remember hearing that.
But that's how the subconscious works,
Yeah.
man. That's how it works.
So you're saying you didn't watch the 60 Bird episode? Is that what you're saying?
No,
You haven't been watching any Gary stuff?
no, not really.
Oh, but you should.
I've just been reading it.
Dude, as someone who's sitting here having a political purity conversation with us, as much as I know you are at love of this conversation, you need to go back. As much as I hate that I'm plugging one of our other shows to a co-host.
I don't. Shameless
But I also love
self-promotion.
Because you need to watch, you'll at least be on the same page. because you'll, with the frequency that we stop and talk about it,
Fair enough.
it breaks it up for you, kind of breaks the spell.
Right.
And then you can come argue with us if you feel that we were wrong. That'll make a great episode too. I threw us way out in left field because of the crony thing.
The crony pony.
The crony capitalism. So
Oligarchy. So much more accurate.
Oligarchy system. So do you think that more parties would be a problem or a solution to the current problem?
Possibly.
Do either of you guys have I personally don't. I understand that this is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wrap my brain around how I would go about
Decentralize the
fixing
power
it.
structure. Basically, succession. There's just no way that one person can represent 300 million people's ideas, no matter how you get to electing them. It's too. If at the point where you have multiple parties, then it basically becomes a special interest group running the country.
So you think it just needs to be sort of like
Yeah,
a council, like just remove the president from the situation
why
and
the
just
fuck-
keep like the Senate and the Congress?
Why
Sort of
even do
stuff.
that? Why do you need that?
I
Yeah,
don't. We
okay,
don't.
like, what's
I
the
don't. But
last
the
time-
people, the sheep, do. I mean, come on.
Okay, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, what you're saying, like, only remove one of the fucking heads of the, what is it that has it's not a hydra that has 3 heads.
Yeah.
Kraken.
Yeah.
Either way, but yeah, I think then, because you had to have the 3 checks. Corrupt. I mean, what the founding fathers put together for how small of a group of people it was,
Well,
I think was a good idea. But now we're at 300 million.
If I can throw in a little point.
With the 3 checks and with like you having 2 different voices at two years apart, that you're getting your senators and your congressmen in, and then every 4 years. So there's a constant rotation because they know people change their minds quickly. I think it was a smart idea. Communication was a lot slower.
If I can add a point to what you're saying, dude.
Yeah.
It was built for a nation that had a lot less fucking people,
Yeah,
too.
and
I mean, look at
definitely.
communism. Smaller scale can totally fucking work.
And,
But
well,
when they balloon it out, it
What
gets
about
to a
those
point where it's over
farms?
encumbersome.
what are those farms that all the like hippie friends of Brian's like go and work on a commune?
Communes.
Because
Yeah,
that's basically
that is
you freely
essentially-
deciding to be a communist. And
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. If you decide you and your group of friends want to buy a patch of land and all live in a society with no money and just everybody works for that's cool if you decide to do that. But you
Right.
don't have the option to shoot me in the head because I don't want to join your farm and work for you.
Right.
But yeah, that essentially that's what I'm saying. Allow that. If people want to do that, let them do that. But get rid of the central power over people's
Well,
decision making.
You look at like all these laws that are being passed where they're outlawing people collecting fucking rainwater
Or you have to pay for like
to grow a fucking tomato plant.
exactly.
You know, I thought I lived in a country where I could do the things within reason that I want to do on my property.
I didn't think you could meet anybody that would argue for that kind of legislation. But talking about political purity, there's this extreme Democrat dude. He's not a Democrat anymore, I don't think, because he was pro Sanders, and then Sanders got knocked out by his own party, and he's really upset about that. But he is so statist, and that's his religion. It's not safe to drink that. And I'm like, oh, it's for gardening. He's like, well, why wouldn't you just use hose water? And I'm like,
Because I have to
we
pay
wanna
for hose
conserve
water.
resources. Like, isn't that your guys' issue of being like green?
Right.
Jesus
What
fuck,
the
but because the state says that's the rule, he just automatically assumes that they have best interest at heart, and it's got to be the way it's got to be. If it would have been a Republican, he probably would have saw my way.
Denny's did it.
Come on the show and talk to me, motherfucker.
Oh man, I had a point I wanted to throw in. No, you gave me the point and then I just lost it. Someone save me here.
Rewind. So we were talking about rainwater. Was it to do with that?
No, I don't remember. It's best
No.
if we move on and it'll come back to me. And I'll jump back. I'll jump back in and interrupt what we're talking about next.
It's ridiculous how these that give momentum behind conspiracy theories of the government wanting you to be dependent on the fucking government.
Yeah, I mean they need you to be dependent on it so you buy into the system.
Exactly. It's like the mafia.
That's how they get
You give
control of
them-
the state.
You give them just enough to keep them happy, enough to keep them going.
I wish more people saw the government as a cartel or a mafia, because that's all it is.
It is, dude.
A monopoly of
That's like Republicans and Democrats. It's a fucking joke. The whole point of this is that, like, it's a fucking joke. When Bloods and Crips keep Bloods and Crips in power, who the fuck stays in power? Bloods and Crips.
So
They import it.
You make a great point there, and that's probably the best way is as a cartel or as the mafia, and that's where you get this two-party system. That's the oldest mafia technique in the book. It's they've started applying it, and there's evidence of this when we used mafia help in World War II. As far as our interaction getting over into Italy, as far as when we had the German spies sink that ship in it was a New York harbor, I believe, and the dock was owned by a mob boss. So our government worked with the mob to find out who sank the boat, and then we worked with Lucky Luciano. He was taken out of jail for the work that he did, helping us get into Italy for World War II. So there's also
look it up. It's a really interesting story.
There's also documented proof that we talked to trying to hire mob assassins to get rid of Castro, because obviously, as much as it didn't interest our government to have Castro there, the mob was really hurting.
Because their businesses were lost.
Big Oil was really hurting because, for instance, Poppy Bush had owned about half of Cuba at that point. And when Castro came in power, he said, "No, you're gonna have." He basically cut his landowners down to like a third of what it was, and said, "This land's gonna be Cuba's land. You can have this much, but that's it." And he did this. He kicked all the mob casinos out. So there's evidence of these two entities working together, and the Democrat Republican goes back to that whole mob idea of funding both sides. So that way, no matter who wins, you're still in power. So that's sort of what I see going on.
Business does. That's why big banks buy into both political parties.
That's where the purity comes from. That's why I don't think it goes away ever. It's a tactic used to give us the illusion of choice that we don't actually have anyway.
Exactly.
So it could be 8 people up there. It could be 14 candidates up
there. The Jedi Council, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, we could go back to status and just have our Senate just be the governing body. That's not going to matter because they will own every person in that Senate, or they will get rid of the ones who aren't doing things. This has always been a class
That's
issue.
the point. That's the point.
Exactly. You just have to buy enough and be able to.
Because if you can buy enough, they can sell the bullshit to pull enough of the other people to vote that way. Oh, well, this guy's in on it. Well, the elbow fucking grease, I owe him a vote.
Yeah.
Fucking braces.
That's one of the reasons why, you don't hear me saying out here anything about needing to restructure or do any of this stuff with our government. Because at this point, I'm on the brink of nihilism, where I'm just sort of like,
bring the anarchy.
No, not even that. It's just no matter what. Because I'd love an anarchist society, because that would be fantastic to be able to do whatever I truly want, because I wouldn't use it to hurt anyone.
Right.
But in order to live in an anarchist society, so that's the thing that's the thing that bothers me about, to go back to this political purity, to kind of keep it on point here. I hate when I hear terms like socialism or communism used as dirty words, or as what I like to call dart words. I hate it when you sling that at somebody. It's supposed to be a dirty word thrown. I'm like, oh, that dirty commie. It's like, do you realize that theoretically, there is nothing evil, there is nothing bad about the idea of communism. There's nothing evil, there's nothing bad about the idea of socialism. It is what people have done with it when they have tried to apply these tactics. That has what has been evil. So when you call someone a communist in this derogatory term, you're very sense to me, and it's part of that political blindness.
Well, it's where people don't understand the difference between totalitarianism, democracy, a republic. People, you say these fucking terms to people, and they're like, huh?
The majority of America, I truly believes that we live in a democracy right now. They wouldn't know if they'd ask you what a democratic republic is, they would say, oh, that's that thing they had in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
That's where Emperor Palpatine came to power, right? Was from
right.
a democratic republic. So I agree with you. People they don't even know what kind of system that we're in, because we're
No.
not in a democracy. I think we're hardly in a democratic republic at this point, because I don't
Right.
even believe it's working. It seems like there are a lot of people that are upset, but if the system was working the way it was supposed to, these people should have voted for their representatives. Their representatives should be representing and acting on behalf of the people. So apparently there's been some along the way, because the system is not working. Because theoretically, why would people be upset in a democratic republic? Things should be going the way that they want. They should have the power to change it. Fuming for 30 years, wondering why this is always getting worse.
And that's when you throw in education system that keeps everybody too stupid to make effective change.
Oh, the education system is not failing. It is in its sweet spot. It's in its heyday.
Oh, well, I
It
mean,
is
if you mean
right.
it's supposed to keep people
It is
stupid.
Right. No, exactly. It's not. Albert Einstein said your education begins as you start to unlearn the things you learned in school.
Yeah.
That's a paraphrase, a bad paraphrase there, but
From the bad dinner guests.
from the bad,
Yeah.
and that's what we do. We just pull things out of the old pensive and throw out half-assed quotes. But you can look it up. That's legit. I paraphrased it, but this is the smartest man. The credit is one of the smartest man ever. Even saying that, he got educated after forgetting what he learned in school. So, and I think that's really what it is. The school has been about making you a good drone.
Yeah.
Making you a good worker.
It teaches you to regurgitate what you've been taught.
Teaches you to be on time, respond to a bell. You don't like. You know, other kids didn't sit there in science class and study and learn Pavlov's dog, and then hear the bell ring at
For
the end
lunch
of,
and get excited.
and
Yeah.
like, oh wow, they would sit there and talk about how like, oh, it's crazy you can do that to a dog. I'm like, crazy you can do that to a dog, bitch. They're doing that to us right now.
Right.
They just did it 5 minutes ago before homeroom. Like,
Stand up and say the pledge. Everybody scoots out of their seat before they even think about what they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do not. So I am that guy who I'll cover my heart and whatnot, but I refuse to sing the pledge.
Mhm.
I refuse chanting of any kind.
Right.
The last time I did that was in basketball high school games. I would cheer shit, like. And see
Right.
whatever. I get
Win,
a really
win,
icky
win.
feeling. I get a real icky
I
feeling
chant
about
that
it.
every time right before I put it in.
Nice.
3 times. I try and get her involved. Sometimes she sits down. Sometimes she's a little weirded out.
I usually say, of course I have one. No, I'm just kidding.
She's get
And then throw the Snickers wrapper away. Hey, I like to treat myself.
This isn't even consensual.
Oh, man. Just yell surprise.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. So back to
Oh my God, right?
Kevin's rapes.
Stop it.
Oh,
You guys can't make fun of me like this. You do this 13 or 14 more times and I'm out of here.
Oh, man.
that's how we know we've made it, is when you've walked out of the show.
That will be the end of it. Oh, look, the studio dog has come in.
Yeah.
So, as far as like how do we get away from political purity? Like, what do we do to do that?
That's probably a conversation or a think tank for people much smarter than me. Otherwise, I'm in the maze.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't ever pretend to have a solution. I think that until we can, our first goal is to get enough people talking about the fact that
opening a dialogue
exists, because right now a lot of people are blind to it. So my current solution has been just getting the open dialogue, so that way we can all at least start to agree that there's a problem, and then at
Enter
that
bad
point,
dinner guests.
we can start figuring out
Ain't
some
that right,
solutions,
puppy?
because I don't see any way you fix this. The way I see this big government machine is that you can't just repair a couple of odds and ends here and expect that the whole thing is going to come out looking differently.
Right.
The tricky
Yeah.
thing they've done is convince people that the solution is more government and legislation. Like that's
That's like
biggest-
convincing a drowning man you need more water.
Exactly, and that's, they don't like see that like we've gotten here because of it. Is it to like harden more down on your like
Right.
how many times you keep doing something and getting shitty results. Like, hey, maybe it's what we're doing.
Maybe I shouldn't grab
Yeah.
the pan on the stove.
Yeah.
by the pan.
Which of the two sharp knives are you going to grab a hold of? Well, maybe I'm just going to put the knives in a drawer. Like,
Can I get weird with you guys for a minute?
It's
we're already not wearing
encouraged.
pants.
All right. I hesitate to do this, but so this is not an answer to your question in any way, but I have to tell you guys that I think that we're seeing, in my eyes, this is sort of the reason that our religions exist right here. I kind of believe that our religions, man-made religions, were created to sort of supplement and give you the idea that you need this father-like thing watching over you to make all your decisions for you. They teach you that you were born into sin, that you were born bad, and that there's this invisible man. He's the only one that can take care of you and take you to the happy place. But also, if you do bad things, he'll strike you down.
Well, it reinforces the idea of negative action, negative consequences. You know.
Exactly. Yes, and it lays
except
down
on a much
rules.
grander
Have you ever
level.
noticed, like the Ten
And it
Commandments?
keeps you in fear.
It's not like, none of those are spiritual rules. It's like looking at it's like looking through an office's HR notebook.
Yeah.
You know, it's I won't steal, I won't kill, I won't lie,
I won't sexually harass
I won't
the
sexually
helper.
harass someone. It's like these aren't like spiritual or more moral dilemmas. Really, these are all pretty cut and dry things that everyone
Right.
can agree on.
We've all met somebody that never evolved from the Stone Age, though, that needs some kind of like inept fear of like a greater like evil being perpetrated upon them because of their actions.
And
I
fair.
won't even say that like that wasn't necessary for a while. I'm just enlightened.
That doesn't mean it wasn't man-made. I'm not
Oh,
saying
yeah,
it wasn't
no,
necessary.
definitely
I'm saying it
man-made.
was man-made, and that was the reason. I think
Oh,
the reason
Definitely. Look
people
at the
don't
old church.
understand how much Christianity was created by the Romans really to be a government thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's where the Holy
most
Roman
devout
Church
Christians
came
don't
from.
realize how paganized their religion is.
No.
It says explicitly in your Bible not to decorate Christmas trees. It says specifically in your Bible not to wear gold crosses. They do these things that their God does not want them to do, but I don't want to climb down that rabbit hole.
Well, no.
The
Fuck
original,
that. Fuck
the
that. This
original
bad dinner
Christmas,
gas.
Saturn, and all that good stuff. But what I'm saying is here is I think the reason that we see this political purity is because politics is sort of it's hand in hand with religion. It's supposed to be the separation of church and state, but yet our money says in God.
How often do you hear preachers
The separation
preaching?
of church and state is not in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or any other federal.
It
But
really
it's something
isn't.
that people harp on that they say that they want without
Right.
realizing that it does not exist.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is
Right.
the separation of church and state does not exist. People like to think that it does, and they want to feel that it should be a thing, but it's not a thing.
Right. How often do you hear a government policy being fucking touted from a pulpit? And how often do you hear fucking Bible verses being quoted from fucking
You
politicians?
swear on a Bible before you go before a court.
Exactly. It's completely
And take the office.
See, so you guys you may not be with me on this, but you're at least kind of pointing out some things that this is why I sort of feel this way. I think that what really happened in the beginning of time was the smarter men knew that they needed a way to
control
control the population and get them to do some things for them. Religion was created, and from religion, because the earliest political systems were all based on
Honestly,
all of your first kings were considered to be the sons of gods, or
yeah,
they've been given
like the
divine
pharaohs.
So if you go to the very beginning and then you follow along the lines, I really don't feel like we're so far. People would like to think we're really far removed from that time, but
No.
I think that all that happened is the masters got better at their methods. They got better at hiding what they do, and now you willingly not only do you submit to your own slavery, but you help police each other in it.
Exactly.
And you're really just doing the church's work basically at this point
Look at
at all times.
Judaism. Right? Judaism was the religion of the enslaved Israelites. Right? People in slavery and bondage, that's how they get through living in slavery and bondage, making.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of Christianity is ripped directly from the Egyptian religion.
Oh yeah,
A lot of it, and which makes sense. You know, it sort of its basis is sort of based around the Egyptian religion, and then a lot of the holidays are actually pagan holidays. Easter, you would consider. I mean, it's St. Hallows Eve is supposed to be, but really, at Christmas, no, that was a Saturn worship holiday. The solstices. The same thing with the equinox, with Ishtar becoming Easter. And so what happened was it was a political doing of a Roman emperor, Constantine, who needed to get all of his people under one banner, and he had pagans over here, Christians over here, so he merged multiple religions together.
Well, and you can go across the world, like the Mayans built their pyramids according to the celestial calendar, and that was the mythology that they built around why the seasons and things changed, and they sold it to the people that these are the gods we need to appease. I am your conduit for the holiness.
I like what you're saying though about like him using it to unify two different groups of people under the same banner, and that's kind of how like the political parties do it now. It's like, hey guys, you want to be on a team together? Pick my team. We're pro-choice, pro-giving free shit.
Right.
We'll
let you smoke some weed.
Yeah. Well.
Well,
as long as it's controlled by the FDA and the DEA and 16 other agencies that to collect the tax.
And there has to be THC regulations.
Again, from 60 Year Radio.
So I had to go down that rabbit hole with you guys because I couldn't get through this political purity, bringing up the idea that I think that this stems from people's religious background, because although there are
wanting to fall in line,
there are a lot of
toe the party line.
What you notice is a lot of these people. I bet a lot of atheists there are probably a lot of atheists that don't align politically one way or the other either. I'm sure there are a lot of atheists that do as well. But again, there's hardly any person in this world that at some point or another was not introduced to one of our major religions that doesn't at least know the stories. Pretty much anybody can tell you about Christianity. Right. I've been to church, you know the story by now, one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow. Can be,
Jesus, look at how many fucking holiday specials are on TV where Danger Story.
It's become exactly because they get in there through Christmas. That's what all the holidays. Anyway, but
I love and totally, man. I mean, your religions.
And it sort of has gotten that way, and you see that sort of fanaticism. I feel like politics has become this year. It feels like a reality TV show where it's more like watching Hard Knocks on TV. It feels like I'm watching an NFL training camp.
I feel like I'm watching European soccer.
Yeah, there is a lot of overacting and stuff. Also, what was up with
rioting and shit?
Bill and Hillary and those balloons, man. Did that creep anybody else out?
Balloons.
We can bring that up for maybe a bad dinner guest, a Manchurian Candidate, some kind of podcast episode. I think Papa is gonna do us a solid here.
Oh, man.
When she got the Democratic nomination, a bunch of these balloons popped down, and you can see like she has this crazy like childish wonder in her face, and
like, oh my god, gravity.
Bill stands there like he's stoned, and he like bounces his balloon, and, like chuckles and stuff.
Dude, when you see how old they are, do you not like picture your senile grandparents?
Well,
right.
Well, and then one of the reasons I brought up her health and stuff earlier was the end of the Reagan term and how it was essentially people were kind of keeping under wraps that his Alzheimer's had kicked in
hard,
and Poppy was really running the White House. So that's where I'm at with this political period. What happens if we're at her age and at the level of stress and the way she operates? Who's to say she doesn't just have like a blood clot, or something go bad? And then what would happen to the Democratic Party if for some reason, for health reasons, if she couldn't come through, or if that thing that people blew out of proportion, like if Trump really did say something that caused someone to act out and do something to Hillary, like how would the Democratic Party bounce back?
I heard theories saying that everybody's favorite handsy uncle Joe Biden would step in to save the day.
I've heard that. There are theorists out there that believe Joe Biden will be the next president without any doubt at all. They will say that too. They think this whole thing is a coup so that Joe Biden
it's a bread and circus.
So that Joe Biden can be president without having to run. But you have, Mitt Romney supporters will tell you the same thing, that this whole thing is a show so that Mitt Romney didn't have to do any of the campaigning, that he can just run for president without any of the work.
Right.
Which I acknowledge those theories that they're out there. I don't really there's really not much to back those, but to throw one more wire at it, one more bottle rocket into the fire, there are those that believe that the election will be suspended and that Barack Obama will run our emergency FEMA government. So I don't know necessarily that he'll do that. I think he wants the UN. But yeah, you see her over there with those balloons? Oh, I love this.
Playing off short bus
right here too. These guys are loving those balloons, man.
I don't ever remember loving balloons that hard.
That's a dude who got sucked off at the desk at the Oval Office, treating a balloon like he's 4 or 5 years old. Like he's experienced the most exhilarating thing a man can experience in his life. Getting a
nuclear clothes.
He has gotten a cheating blowy. Chris was standing in the other room, like that dude's heart has raced several times before, and he's treating those balloons like they're the best thing he's ever seen.
I'm pretty sure if I ever became president, and this is why I could never explicitly become president, I would do cocaine in the Oval Office.
So
that wouldn't stop you. So did JFK. So did Slick Willie.
Pretty sure George.
He liked cocaine in college.
So, I know
being able to be like, yo, CIA dudes, let me break off a little bit of the top. Let me wax y'all.
Political purity. Have you heard the theory that you remember the George Bush choking on pretzels incident? That he got his black eye by choking on a pretzel and hitting his head on the table.
No.
Well, he says it was Dick Cheney. There was a White House aide, an alleged former White House aide, alleged that what really happened was George Bush got really drunk at Camp David and slipped and fell and hit his face on the coffee table. So it's possible that
an old Texan man getting drunk.
Again, it's just
that's not out of the. I'm just saying. I mean.
Yeah, it's not really.
Texans are drunk.
It's not much of a reach in the world of conspiracy. I understand. I was just saying, as far as a political purity thing goes, if that was the truth, it got covered up.
Yeah.
As anybody, if a blowjob gets you kicked out of the office, I think drinking on the job, like blacking out, could potentially get you impeached in this strong, pull yourself up by your bootstraps nation we live in right now. Hell, I can't believe Obama has a Twitter.
His DUIs.
Whose DUIs?
George Bush's.
Oh, yeah. That's some bull, because I bet Canada let George Bush into their country, but he's supposed to not be there. You've ever had a DUI in it, so that's some bull. I'm going to write a letter to my Canadian representative.
Representative?
Yeah.
We have one of those?
I'm going to pick one. I'm gonna be my guy. His name's going to be Claude.
Oh.
Right. I'm going.
I was thinking, like, dear Mr. Alex Trebek,
it's gonna be.
You're dropping the fucking ball, buddy.
I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through the list of Canadian politicians, and the first guy named Claude or Remy that I find is going to get a letter from me, because those are the two names I want to write down. So that's how that's going to work.
There you go.
I'll probably go to one Claude and one Remy.
Go to both.
I have a feeling Claude's going to be a bit of a dick, and Remy's going to be that guy that helps me out.
Yeah.
It's solely on pop culture.
There you go.
And hockey. A lot of dicks named Claude play hockey.
There you go.
Yeah,
that sounds legit.
There's a method to my madness, but it's usually more like it seems more like a comic book villain kind of method. Out there, like Silver Age, like a cheeky Adam West comic book villain. Let's put it that way. So speaking of villains, is there? I know we don't have any solution for it. So what? Like,
I already gave you a solution.
What's the solution?
Decentralized power structure.
Yeah. Okay. So just no federal government.
That sounds beautiful, don't it?
No, no, I didn't say that.
States run shit.
No, flag.
Yeah, honestly, I would love to see people. What's the word I'm looking for?
themselves.
No, well, yeah, but when you withdraw from the union, what's that called?
Secede.
Yeah, I would love to see personal.
You said that earlier. You're like secession.
Yeah, essentially. The only reason you don't see that a whole lot, though, is because of the federal stronghold on the states through federal funding. Things that the federal government doesn't have the legal right to do that they get away with because the states give them the legal authority. Because if the states say, we decided we're gonna up the speed limit to 90 miles an hour. Okay, well, we're gonna pull away your federal funding for highways.
Right.
Or if they say, well, you actually don't have the right to say what guns can be sold in my state, so we're going to sell everything here. Your education funding. So they have that, and it's because they've been feeding the beast that now the beast is.
And that shows.
To that money.
And that shows the fucking stupidity of depending on the federalcy.
Exactly.
And also the stupidity of thinking that you changing the president
Is going to change it.
You're changing the ass that sits in one seat is going to change any damn
Right.
thing about it. Because even if you had gotten your precious Bernie in there, there would have been enough people there that didn't want to see us turn into socialists. Which again, Americans don't realize how we are. It's not that big of a stretch. So I
We
thought that
technically became socialists with the New Deal.
also was very funny to see people with their panties in a bunch. I don't live in a socialist country, you dumb bitch. Just stop it.
Right.
Stop it.
Stop being stupid in public.
Well, no, what democratic socialism means to me, no, stop it. Just
That's funny. When I read socialism in Webster's fucking dictionary, that's not a part of it.
No,
What
you didn't
socialism
see-
means to me.
you didn't see as defined by Larry underneath.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Oh shit.
They've got a write-in section under democratic socialism. It's great. It's like the
Your own dictionary.
yeah.
That should be the Urban Dictionary definition of it. Just up to you.
Up to you.
Yeah.
What do you
That was the Bernie supporter definition of it. Well,
Pretty much.
I think that it means well, you've never
Well, and dude,
you've never
that's
read
giving them
history
too much
so it
credit.
doesn't matter.
Saying I think is giving them too much credit. Oh, well, I feel,
Yeah.
yeah, because
I feel
no,
like it means puppies and rainbows and free stuff. That's what it means to me.
because everybody knows cornerstone of a good debate is nothing to do with facts
No, yeah.
whatsoever.
Hasn't threw me off for a second.
Ah. Facetious.
So I guess the moral of the story is that God is dead and there's no hope for anyone. But is that the conclusion that we came to?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the message I put out today, and I'm not too upset about it. Yeah. So with that being said,
Fuck the federal government.
rawr, we will be back for an episode here in about an hour, and then after that you'll never hear from us again because
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have a couple of guys in black SUVs outside telling us not to ever do this again. So I've been Kevin.
That was Lou.
They tell me my name's RJ.